This is the Liaison podcast with Izzy Park. Today we're going to the French Riviera in spring, when the yachts come back home. The smell hits before anything else. Not the sea, not yet. Pine resin and thyme, warm stone, the particular dry sharpness of maquis scrubland baking in morning sun. Then you clear the last bend, and the water is just there, and your brain does something involuntary, some small recalibration, because the colour is wrong. Not wrong, just not what you were prepared for. It is not blue the way you know blue. It is translucent, lit from underneath, shifting between turquoise and something close to silver where the morning light catches the surface at a low angle. Henri Matisse moved to Nice because northern light wore him out. He called the light here soft and tender. Standing on the Promenade des Anglais at 7 in the morning, with the sea going silver gold along the horizon and the pebble beach almost entirely empty, that phrase stops being art history and becomes something you can feel on your face. This is the French Riviera in spring. Not the July version, not the film festival version, the one that exists before anyone is performing anything. The question people ask is whether the glamour is real, and the answer is yes, entirely, and also beside the point. What makes the Riviera worth going to in May, specifically May, is that you catch it between its two faces. The mythology is intact, the crowds have not arrived. The sea is 17 or 18 degrees, which is cold by most measurements and bracing by local ones, and the light falls at a low enough angle in the morning and evening to make pale limestone look like it is producing its own warmth. Daytime runs to the mid-20s. Mornings want a light jacket. By noon, the jacket is unnecessary and the water is possible. The aperitif hour falls just as the sun does, around 8:30, which means dinner terraces get the full warmth of late light on the water. That is, genuinely, the best hour in the whole Riviera calendar. The coast between Nice and the Italian border is where this version of the Riviera lives most clearly. The Niçoise are not Parisian. This needs saying because people arrive expecting a certain French temperature and find something warmer, slower, more immediate about food and drink and time. Nice was Italian until a few centuries ago, and some older residents still cook with that in mind. French is spoken, and Italian slips in constantly. Make an effort with French, and you will be rewarded, possibly with Italian back. The social architecture here is built around a few fixed points: the market in the morning, the long lunch, the aperitif hour, dinner at 8:30 or later, wine bars after 10. These are not suggestions. Shops close from noon to 2 in the afternoon, seriously, in tourist areas, with no apology. The lunch hour is sacred. Dinner before 7:30 marks you as someone who does not yet understand how time works here. The aperitif hour is worth understanding properly. From 6 to 7:30 in the evening, almost everyone in the Old Town is having a drink outdoors. It is not a prelude to something. It is the thing. Work is discussed. People who argued in the morning reconcile. It is the social tissue of the entire place, and it happens every evening with a consistency that feels almost municipal. The Cours Saleya market in Vieux-Nice runs in 2 shifts, and the first one, the flower hour, is the one almost nobody sees. Arrive between 6 and 7, and the entire square fills with cut mimosa, lavender bundles, Provençal roses, carnations arranged by colour in metal buckets. The smell arrives before you see the stalls. It is dense and sweet and green-edged, a thick wave of scent that hits with something close to force. Vendors call to each other in a mix of French and Niçoise dialect, stacking bouquets with practiced speed, hands stained yellow-green from mimosa stems. By 8, the food stalls arrive. The socca vendor comes with the copper pan still smoking, cuts it into rough triangles with a wooden scraper, hands it over in paper. Thin chickpea crepe, charred at the edges, black pepper, olive oil. Costs almost nothing. The salad Niçoise you've eaten elsewhere is, with respect, not a salad Niçoise. The real version has no cooked vegetables, no boiled potatoes, and if you suggest otherwise to someone from Nice, they will look at you with a very specific kind of patience. Raw tomatoes, raw green pepper, cucumber, small black olives, anchovies from the local catch, hard-boiled egg, olive oil applied heavily. It is a composition, not a toss. The arrangement matters to the people making it, and once you've eaten it the right way, the restraint makes complete sense. Vieux-Nice, the old town, is a dense grid of Baroque buildings painted in ochre, terracotta, and yellow. The colours were originally meant to be seen from returning fishing boats to signal home. The streets are too narrow for cars. It comes alive at 9 with the market, quiets after lunch, resurfaces at 7 for aperitivo. There are actual butchers here, actual cheese shops, a few old tabac corners. Chain stores have not one. A short distance east, Villefranche-sur-Mer is a deep-water harbour protected by limestone cliffs, and at 6 in the evening, when the sun drops behind the hills, the fishing boats sitting low in the water catch the light, and the entire port goes gold. The limestone cliff face behind it shifts from white to orange. Waterfront restaurants put tables directly on the quay. The smell is fish, diesel, and the specific salt brine of a protected harbour where the water does not move much. Above all of this, literally above, Ez sits on a medieval rock outcrop 400 metres over the water. The tour groups come and go before 1 in the afternoon. By 2, the narrow stone alleys are cool in the shade, and the village is quiet, smelling of bougainvillea and old stone. The view down to Cap Ferrat is staggering, cobalt at depth, fading to near white at the rocky shore. Cap Ferrat is where to go if you want the coastal path without infrastructure. A thumb of land between Nice and Monaco, a walking trail rings the entire peninsula in about 90 minutes. Rocky swimming spots with no sun lounges, no colour-coded service, no expectation. You pick your rock and look at a view that has not changed substantially in 100 years. In spring, the path smells of wild thyme, lavender and rock rose baking in the sun. The sea directly below is the blue that isn't quite real. Monaco is worth 1 day and 1 very specific evening. It is the size of a large city park and contains, on one side, the casino and the Hôtel de Paris, operating in a state of sustained theatricality, and on the other, a quietly functional residential city where people go to the supermarket and complain about parking. For the evening, you dress up, you nurse an expensive drink at the casino bar, and you watch. The energy is performative, but quietly so, more contained than Cannes, slightly absurd in a way the regulars seem entirely comfortable with. The light in Nice's old town in the early morning is a different kind of photograph. The Cours Saleya in the shade at 7:30, the ochre walls on one side in full sun and the other in deep shadow, the contrast making the colours look almost edible. A small espresso on a zinc bar, window open, the street still in shadow at 8 in the morning. The simplest image, and somehow the most accurate one. The coastal walking paths are where the Riviera's strange generosity reveals itself. They give you the same view as the private terraces of the villas above, with no admission, and in May, with no crowd. The democratizing move on this coast is always the path, always the public beach, always the market at opening time. The pebble beaches of Nice are free and fine, kept clean by the pebbles themselves, and in the early morning there are always a handful of locals already in the water, arms wide, no wetsuits, treating the cold as tonic rather than obstacle. That is the image worth keeping, not the casino, not the yachts. The promenade at 7 in the morning, the water going silver along the horizon, the grand hotels just beginning to wake up behind their enormous windows, and a woman in her 60s doing slow stretches on the beach wall, coffee cup beside her, nobody looking at a phone. The glamour is real. So is the fishing village underneath it. In May, you can see both at once, and the distance between them is smaller than you'd think. We hope you enjoyed the trip. You can support the Liaison podcast by rating it 5 stars and pressing the follow button. And remember, one's destination is never a place, but rather a new way of looking at things.
Grab news. Thomas.